The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead. We provide programs and services designed to assist and support the older town residents who wish to remain in their homes as they age. If we don't currently provide a service, we will try and connect you to that service. Call 311 or 869-6311 to get more information or receive services.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
And welcome back to Project Independence and You. I'm Rebecca Miller. I am your guest host for today's show, and we're here with Otto Los, Project Independence and You. You've been the co-host now for 6 months straight, or as long as we've been doing the radio show during COVID. So thank you so much for that, Otto. We appreciate that.
It's been quite an experience, actually. I've enjoyed every minute of it, especially with the people I'm with, like you and Christina and Dan and John, of course.
And John, of course.
Right.
It's great.
And I blame your mother for getting me involved with this whole thing.
I'll let her know.
I know. Little did Ev know that she, was creating budding stars.
I know. 9 years later, Christina, and you're here on every show. I mean, it's just
no, it's really
it's unbelievable.
And that's what I'm saying.
We touched on the mental part of this whole thing, and I think it's something that we are all born with a different deck of cards, but believe me, I wasn't born with that. I remember as a teenager, as a kid, thinking, what are you worrying about? Blah, blah, worry about you didn't get your books back to the school. And, I remember laying in bed thinking, oh my God, I was supposed to turn these books in and I didn't, and, whatever. So I actually, believe it or not, when I was in my teens, read 2 books. One was How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, and I believe it was Dale Carnegie, and the other one was The Power of Positive Thinking. Mm-hmm. And I actually rethink those things. I believe in mental gymnastics, if you will. We do physical well-being, and I believe you have to do mental well-being as well. And anybody who thinks that this is just injected into you, I don't believe that. I really believe you have to work at it. Yeah. I work at it, and I've been through my share of stuff in life. There's not too many I skipped, but you have to go forward and try to be as positive and up as you can about it. It's not easy, and everybody, and a lot of people have a hell of a lot more problems than any of us do. I often look at people who have disabilities and what they accomplish. There was a guy not long ago I saw on 60 Minutes or one of those shows. He had no arms when he was born, and he ended up being a champion bow and arrow guy with his feet. Mm-hmm. You got to have a will that is beyond anybody's normal will. Yet, we're all normal, and I think we all have a will, and if you take the will and put it into a positive direction, you can accomplish a lot, but you got to want to do it. You got to have the will.
Oh, you know what it is, Otto, and it's such a good point, and we always touch upon this because I, too, believe in those kind of core foundations, right, of life. And, because a lot of, you're happy, everything is great, they think it's just all sunshine and rainbows. And it's not, I've experienced tons of stuff in my life, so far. Hopefully, it doesn't get too much crazier. But, and I think, but to me, that's important to find joy in certain things and to be that person for people I love, right? And I know it's not easy, as Otto said. It's actually more difficult probably than being the person to throw in the towel and say, forget it, I'm not going to bother. That's kind of the path of least resistance. But what I always sticks in my mind is earlier this year we had on Laughter Yoga was the, and Beck, you hosted that show with me, Laughter Yoga. Were you on that one?
No, I wasn't. That was pre-COVID.
Oh, you know what? It was me and Marlene. That's right. So I hosted, and Marlene, who one of our other co-hosts, was doing it with me. And we had this woman on who teaches laughter yoga. And, you know, on the surface, it looks like you look crazy, you know, because it just seems excessive. But what was so interesting, she was talking about the foundations of how this got started. And just the fact, you know, studies show of forcing yourself to smile and to look
Yes.
at people, it actually sends endorphins and positive, you know, mojo inside your body, you know, so it just, even if you're not, or pretending to laugh, right? So if you're fake laughing, you know, it actually mimics a lot of times the feelings that are real laughter things. So just by and then we were fake laughing, and then that in turn became real laughing, you know, because it just seemed so silly. You know, we were all sitting on air in, you know, in the radio, on the radio show in our studio doing these exercises with her, you know, but it really goes to show you how that works. So I think that's what I want to stress to people who are listening or watching, is that, you know, yes, you could hear, oh, you know, be a positive person, be a positive, and it could seem like overwhelming if that is not in your nature. But I think it's just to have an aspiration of something smaller, you know, like pick a little tiny thing for that day, you know, whatever it might be, you know, and then I'm a firm believer in a lot of little things will snowball into big things, and big changes. So that's my
Well,
spiel.
one of my little phrases I use, and I'm not going to mention names, but like I'll be out playing golf, all right, and somebody in the group is all of a sudden mumbling and grumbling, and I have this thing in my head. I am not going to let that person rain on my parade. You know, don't let people
Right.
who are negative drag you down, you know, and I use that in my head. I say, don't let him rain on your parade. You know, if he wants to have a miserable time out here on the golf course, you go for it, but don't rain on my parade, because I'm going to try, if I don't mess up on golf too bad, to enjoy the day. You know, golf is a game that I love being outside, and it's a game that also can make you very frustrated, because we I'm not a pro by any means. I love to play, but there's you get shots called like dinks, you know, like you just chunk it, and you know, and the ball goes 12 feet instead of 120 yards or whatever. So you can't get frustrated if you build that up. It can be a very frustrating game, but I think frustration is something that we all contend with, which is a little bit different than worry. Frustration is, I want to do better than that, and I'm frustrated that I couldn't do it, or I'm frustrated because I tried to fix the problem on my computer. There's a lot of frustration sometimes connected with technology. You know, you want to fix it. That's not a worry. That's a little bit different, in my opinion. You know, that's just frustration. You know, and technology can make you frustrated. There's no question.
Okay.
You know. But anyhow, that's a little more the philosophical discussion.
No, but it's true. But this is all going into, you know, we were talking a bit during the break, you know, listen, right now we're in a time of a lot of heavy stressors. Everyone's reacting differently, you know, to whatever is happening in all aspects of life. And, you
It's
know,
true.
as we said, in just these little things is finding little things that make you joy. So what makes me happy might, you know, be different for somebody else, you know, but we are very fortunate to have with us our Project Independence yoga guru, Miss
Namaste.
Rebecca Miller, who, you know, in addition to being the deputy commissioner for our department, she also is a yoga instructor, which is certainly incredible. And it's really shown so many benefits. I've known Beck for a long time, and I could even see once, you know, her getting involved with yoga, how it's changed her outlook and her vibes, you know, with certain things. So Beck, just give us a little, you know, about yoga, just about how it can really help you and benefit you at any age.
So one of the things that, you know, with the laughing yoga, one of the things that I do when I'm teaching a class, and then I'll get back into it, is I tell people, I say, if you smile the entire class, you will burn 1/10 of a calorie. And then everyone starts laughing, and all of a sudden they're smiling. And then, you know, and then I'll be in a pose, you know, maybe it's a difficult pose. I'll say, don't forget to smile. And then everyone starts laughing because they remember that little tidbit of a joke. But yeah. So, yoga, we talked a little bit about, what we were going to talk about today. And I became a yoga instructor when I was in my 50s. I still am in my 50s, by the way, I'm just saying. But I started yoga. Over the years, I tried it. And honestly, I never felt it was for me. I don't know if it was because I was more of a, gym person and cardio. And I just didn't really feel that I could never meditate. I couldn't do yoga. I had that kind of a mentality. And one time I took a class and my friend talked me into going to her friend's studio. And, I was trying to do all these poses and I had my arm up and my knee forward and everything I was supposed to be doing. And there was like 10 people in the class and the instructor spent the entire hour on me, which really turned me away from it for a while. And because I felt like everyone was looking at me and I didn't get the whole judgment thing. And then, but I was still always drawn to it in this way that I felt like there was something there that really is right, that there was something that would work for me. So, I tried it again. And then years later, I had a friend who I was visiting her. She lived out in Hampton Bays and in the summer. And she said, let's take a yoga class. I got to take it this. I'm like, I really don't do yoga. And she's like, just come. It was, really joyful kind of studio. And the instructor was her favorite. And she kind of like did all these lingos that I didn't get. And I walked into the place and the smell in there was just so magnificent. It was like between a lavender, it just drew me in and it was so peaceful. And it was just my friend Yvonne and I and the instructor. And she just, was on her mat and we warmed up and she explained things in this beautiful way. And then it was just like a life-changing experience, that 1 hour. And I opened myself out, we were talking about this too, from I can't do this to I can do this. And, from there I went home and I joined Medwell Spa in Farmingdale, which is a local yoga studio and very small at the time. And I just started taking classes. I couldn't stop. I just kept going and having great, a lot of different instructors. And I was really inspired by the yoga instructors there. They were all different ages, though mostly younger than me, but just really open, beautiful, young men and women that just, totally accepting. And I learned about non-judgment and all kinds of things. And, I had been going about a year or two and got to know a lot of people there. And every, let's say 6 months, they put up a yoga certification if you want to become a teacher. And there's a lot involved. It's 200 hours. It's a big commitment. It's not cheap. It's a master's levels course. And, I called about it and I got the quotes and then I didn't do it. And then that voice in me that I can't do it came in. And then I said, you know what, I can do this. I can really do this. I can juggle my job, my kids, and I signed up and I wound up taking my yoga certification with Always at Home. And though they did at the time use Medwell Spa, which started branching out, and it was at the Wantagh studio. And it was every weekend for 4 months, Friday from 6 to 9, and Saturday and Sundays from 12 to 6. Every single weekend, and every other weekend? I can't remember. But anyway, it was the equivalent of 200 hours of classes and certification, in addition to having to take over 50 classes in that time period, which wasn't a big deal because I was taking so many classes. And I did it, and you learn a lot. You learn a lot about the body. It's not just, here's a pose, this is how you do it. And I've been teaching now for almost 4 years, and it's been life-changing. Like you were saying, Christina, not only do I seem different, I feel different. My mantra is very different.
I think also, you got into yoga in a time in your life where there was like a lot going on.
Yeah.
And it was, finding that kind of thing that really helped get through that, and kind of start a new chapter of things, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened with yoga and you. And as we had touched upon either during a break or, I don't know, we do so much talking. I don't know what's on the air, what's not on the air. But, the fact is, we always say people are scared to do anything new, whether it's exercise or a new activity, for this fear of failure and judgment and whatnot. So I think, a lot of people, or you have this idea of what yoga is in your head, so you might be a senior and say like yoga, and you picture this girl in some kind of contortioned position, or, everyone's got these things. But I
Right.
think with yoga, which is so important to realize, is there's so many different parts of that, and especially now, I'll just give a quick little plug, in this time of at-home programming. I mean, Beck has been such a huge part of the at-home exercise, Project Independence exercise that is on North Hempstead TV. You can get it on demand on the website. And it's really just great because, I think like the chair yoga component of all these things is so wonderful, for the senior who wants to do something and have those benefits, but, it's not as easy to be doing kind of a standing yoga class. So it's just wonderful then.
Yeah, and with the chair thing too is, in addition to yoga, which, of course is my, joy, on the North Hempstead Project Independence exercise classes on North Hempstead television, we're also doing dance, fitness, Tai Chi. And there's a lot of, seniors who are doing the classes, standing poses or doing the dance, and that's great. You can't do any class on a chair. When I'm teaching yoga, I try to give a lot of modifications. When I'm doing a standing pose, I'll say on the chair, you can do this, you can modify, or just do something that feels good and doesn't hurt, any one of the classes. So even if Margaret's doing her dance for fitness and she's lifting the left knee and extending, you do that on the chair. So it's really great. Just make sure the chair is sturdy. I always preface that. You don't want to,
wheels. Yeah, we don't want any chairs on wheels.
Right. No chairs on wheels. When you're on the chair, especially if you're doing chair yoga, slide a little bit forward, just a little bit. And if the chair lifts, it's not the right chair, because a lot of the chair poses we do, you have to move around on the chair a little bit. And if you're leaning to one side, you want the chair to be on the ground because you want to make sure you're not falling over. So it's important to have a comfortable chair, and anyone can do any of the classes.
Can we just go back to basics for 1 second? Like when you say
Absolutely.
Poses, all right? I have never done yoga, and I've watched you for a couple of minutes on Town of North Hempstead TV, but I didn't do yoga. When you say poses, is yoga a series of, we're on the radio obviously, but we're also on TV, but
Yeah.
Is it like a series of just doing slow movements, or what are we talking about? Like what are poses?
So that's a great question, Otto. What is it that we're doing? So in yoga, there are hundreds of poses, whether we're doing a warrior one, if we're coming into awkward chair, if we come into Supta Baddha Konasana, which is a reclining butterfly pose. So all poses have actions that every body part has to take. So no matter what pose you're in, every part of your body has an action. Whether that's a restful action, that's for that body part. So if I'm standing and I'm doing a warrior two, as an instructor, I cue the pose. So I'll tell you what you need to do, right? You bring your arms to a T. Your right knee is over your right ankle. Left foot is engaged behind you. Feet are grounded. Remember, your feet are your foundation when you're standing. So you want to make sure you have your feet grounded in the earth. Arms are at a T. You're gazing over the right hand. The back hand is up at shoulder height. So I'm cueing throughout how to come into the pose. So every pose has a lot of details. It takes a long time to kind of know. So if I'm teaching an advanced class and I'm saying, okay, now we're going to flow through a vinyasa and come up into your warrior 2. And from warrior 2, we're moving into peaceful warrior. I'm not cueing a lot because it's more of an advanced class. I love teaching open level vinyasa or an open level hatha class, which is a slower class where we hold poses longer. It takes a long time. It's not like, oh, I did this wrong. There's no wrong. It's a practice. That's why they call yoga a practice. You're always practicing. I'm practicing. There's no Olympics for yoga. So hopefully that answered part of your question.
Well, is my end goal, thinking about exercise in general, all right, cardio, mental, muscle tone, what?
Yes.
I think it's everything.
Yes.
I think that's the whole point of yoga. It's so integrated.
There's a lot more strengthening going on in the poses than there is like cardio. So if you're taking a power yoga class, the focus is on flowing through these poses a lot quicker and holding them and doing them in a more advanced way. If you're doing just you're in a hatha class and you're holding warrior 2, your arms are engaged, your fingertips are reaching in opposite direction. While you're doing that, while the arms are engaged. So if I'm saying, okay, lift your arms up, right, and your arms are soft, what is that really doing anything? No. Instead, extend your fingertips out. Palms are facing each other. Lift the arms up. Exhale, lower down, connect to your breath. So you see what happens? I mean, I actually have a little definition. Yeah. And if you feel that definition as you're moving, you're strengthening. So when you're seated and you flex your feet, you're going to see that quad kind of pop up a little bit, as opposed to when your foot is kind of just relaxed. Legs are extended. Flex the foot if you're lifting your feet up. Put your hands on your quads, on your legs. Notice the difference when you kind of just gently point the toes, and then when you flex the foot, you feel that. So, depending on the type of class that you're in, there's also restorative yoga where we're using props, and it's mostly on the earth or on your mat. And a lot of people take restorative classes, maybe some that are older, maybe some are recovering from an injury. The props help you come into the pose with bringing the earth a little bit closer, as we say. And then, there's also, there's so many different styles or themes or types of classes. And really, it's whatever your goal is, Otto. So if you really want, you want to get a little bit more of a cardio, you would take maybe a power yoga class or Ashtanga. There's so many different kinds of classes. If you're new, you could take any class, really, if you're new. I'm the type of instructor, I teach my classes how I learned to become a teacher. My teachers really were gave a lot of instruction, and I just find that it helps me too, do the class. So if we're coming into a, things that we had to learn, like a dual action. What's a dual action? You don't usually hear that in yoga, but when I teach, I tell them what it is. That's when you've got one body part in one direction, reaching, maybe if I'm in a tabletop and my fingertips are reaching in front of me, my arms are engaged, and I send my left leg behind me. So I've got my left leg reaching behind me and my right fingertips reaching in front of me. That's a dual action. You can kind of figure out why, right? So that's what I tell, students. This is what we're doing. And I tell them what's happening. I'll say, this is great for the lower back. And then we're going to do the other side. I'm always trying to explain, why am I bringing my right hand all the way down and my seat is grounded? Well, because we're stretching the left side of the body. We're stretching the left side of the body, yes.
Is yoga just yoga? Or are there, like you pointed out, different kinds of yoga? And
yes.
If there are different kinds of yoga, how do I know what kind of yoga I ought to be doing?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. So there are different techniques to get into different poses in yoga. There are different kinds of yoga. There's hot yoga. I mean, there's, open level, there's advanced, and there's beginners. So every studio will offer, or did offer before COVID, a beginner's level yoga. And in addition, this has changed, but they always, most studios had props. If you never, you could use a mat, or you could use a blanket, or you could use one of the props, maybe a block or a bolster. And, the instructor would say, okay, today's class is a gentle yoga class. Please make sure you have a block and a bolster, and then you sit on your mat. So if you're looking for chair yoga, that's very specific. If, you're not able to come down to the mat yet. And just because you take a chair yoga doesn't mean that it's all on the chair. Sometimes the chair is just there as a prop. Sometimes the chair is there to help you get onto the mat. So there's a lot of classes that you could take. The other really good thing today is if you can get on the internet, you can find tons of classes taught by yoga instructors. You just want to be extremely mindful of the type of class they're teaching, making sure that there's some way to verify that the person teaching the class is certified in some way. You want to make sure you're getting the right kind of instruction. So all the studios that I've ever taught at, I've taught at a couple of gyms, and also I've been at Medwell Spa for my entire time, but also I've taught at other places and also for the town. You'll get like a little list of all the classes that they have, and maybe eventually you take that beginner's class, and in that beginner's class you're going to hear a lot of details about different poses, how we get into them, what this is what I usually do in my vinyasa class, or this is more of a hatha where we're holding our pose a little bit longer. And then you keep going to that class and you'll find what you really kind of like, what you like doing, When I first started, I was immediately drawn to vinyasa. There was a lot of different kinds of classes I took, but I realized that at the time for me, it was what I was my body was craving. It gave me that little bit of the cardio, and I liked the movement. A lot of my friends love taking the hatha classes.
Do I have to dress in a certain way? Like if I'm doing karate, my image of karate is I got to wear a karate uniform or whatever.
Yeah.
I like that Otto's very serious about the outfit.
I know.
Can I do yoga like I am right now, or do I have to have a yoga?
So last night I taught a class, and the one person that came, because we just started live classes back again, I was teaching online. He was wearing shorts and a white t-shirt. You want to wear something that's flexible. Eventually you're going to be coming into downward dog. So if you have a shirt that's big, the shirt could ride up. So just kind of something that fits, that's comfortable, that you're not going to be worried about. I mean, as a woman, and especially when you're teaching, I have to be very careful what I'm wearing. I can't wear a shirt that's going to hang down and I'm doing a forward fold. So I want to wear something that's comfortable, that I'm not going to be insecure about. So women, we wear yoga pants and a longer shirt. Very important thing too, especially when you're doing a standing class where you're mostly standing, is you want to either not wear no socks at all, your feet are bare, or they make yoga socks that have a little bit of rubber on the bottom so you don't slide. The last thing you want to do is slide on your mat, especially when you're coming into poses. So there are things that you can, buy to help you kind of, in terms of clothing.
People, I know a number of people actually that have back problems, all right? Is there a yoga that is geared to people who have back problems?
So one of the first things that we no longer ask because it's HIPAA. You know, it's like we don't want anybody to disclose. But if you do have an injury or there's something that you're working through and you're taking a yoga class, like, is there a class that is going to say, okay, this class is good for your back? Maybe I haven't seen it, but you should let the instructor know. And, you know, the instructor just want to make you aware, you know, like, I mean, I've taught a class that was pretty active. And at the end of class, you know, I had a woman come up to me and she said, oh my God, that class was so great. Pregnant. And I really, you know, had a lot of energy. And I thought, you know, and I said to her, you know, I said, oh, you know, congratulations. I said, that's something you should tell your instructor before class, because there are poses, especially when we're coming into like a cat pose where we're rounding the spine, chin to chest. You know, you're doing a lot of things where really you don't want to be massaging all those organs near where that little fetus is growing. So it's good to let your instructor know on the side, and then she might cue things during class. Like she may say something like, or he, you know, if you have any lower back injuries, you know, you should bring your knees in towards your chest instead of, you know, like maybe coming into a different pose. So it's really good to let the instructor know, and then they can offer things for you. You know, restorative classes are great because they're very mindful of, you know, I want to say injuries and people that are recovering, and older people can take that class a lot.
Is that what you're doing for North Hempstead TV back?
Yeah, so the third Friday of every month, I'll be teaching restorative yin on Project North Hempstead Television. And that's on the mat. You should have a bolster and blocks. And we use that to bring the earth closer. But also when you're using the block, you know, a block it's not heavy, but it does have harder corners, allows you to open up the body a little bit more.
So if you're doing that back, like, you know, when you say, so you really, there's not something around the house that you could use to sub in for a block. Like you really should actually have the yoga block.
Good question. Actually, most people don't have these things around the house. So I'll say, have a rolled up towel, roll up a towel before class, have a couple of hard covered books, bring some pillows, you know. So at the beginning of class, I'll say that if you don't have blocks, maybe you have a nice hard covered book nearby, you know, pillows, blankets, and you can definitely
that's great. Yeah, because I feel like, you know, some people might be, you know, thrown off, but I love when you're able to somehow incorporate, you know, household kind of items into doing this.
I'm sure if you look hard enough in your house, you will find everything, Christina.
Yeah, I do have some yoga mats in my garage.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
Just put it in the barcode system.
One of the things that, you know, is so important to yoga, in addition to the body and the poses and, you know, is letting go of judgment. When you come into a yoga studio, you start, you know, no one starts, you know, with like putting your left foot behind your head. You know, it doesn't work out that way. You know, no one starts out that way. And you just want to come to the mat and, you know, maybe the person next to you is doing like an incredible pose, or maybe the person next to you is, you know, very, very heavy and having difficulty. You know, it doesn't matter what's happening around you. And they're practicing for themselves and you're practicing for yourself. And remember, there's no competition here. You may never sit next to that person again for the rest of your life. Not that they don't matter, but why are you there? You're there for your own practice.
I have to ask the question, can you put your left foot behind your head?
No.
Okay.
My right foot I can, but you know.
Can you really?
No,
Ooh.
No, I really can't. I mean, I can probably like put my toe in my mouth, but aside from that, I don't think that's
on next week's show.
My father used to amaze me. He had a thing. He would put a handkerchief down on the floor, and he could bend over and pick the handkerchief up with his mouth, which I thought, he didn't do yoga. he was a milkman. He delivered milk with big cases of milk and whatnot. But I was always impressed with my father being able to do that at an older ages, really.
That's funny because it's like when I really started getting into yoga, and I never saw myself as, you know, somebody being super flexible. But I was like, oh, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. It's like, okay, you know, anyone can really do it. You have to be mindful. This is one of the things I've been talking a lot about. You have to be mindful of your limits. You know, there's nothing wrong with limits. You know, we have speed limits that protect us. Just think about everything that's a limit. You know, you're not gonna. You know, we all have. You know, some of us have a drinking limit.
Not on this show. No, okay.
I said some, not all. But understanding your body, and one of the most important things I talk about when I'm teaching is listen to your body. It's telling you what it needs. If it says don't go there, don't go there.
Yeah, because that's really, and I just want to touch, I know we are veering off, but that's kind of what we do on this show. But part of, you know, this, I think for a lot of people has been this getting out in the outdoors, right? Because it's just a safer feeling for people. You're obviously more able to socially distance, you know, so it kind of opens up the world if you start doing things outside. So like I said, I always kind of love that. But it's fun, you know, we've been really, you know, trying to get out there. We went out east, we went to a pumpkin picking, and it was lovely because where the area we were, there was not a soul. It was just me and my brother and his fiance and my best friend. And it was just a beautiful day and I think, you know, especially like focusing on wonderful things, you know, living in New York, we have such a variety of terrains, you know, and I think that's so amazing, you know, so you can go out east of Long Island and, you know, you got wine country and beautiful farms and you have beaches, you know, you can go upstate New York and there's mountain, you know, so there's really in a short distance, you know, an amount of time, you could travel into all different things, you know, you feel like you're away. And something me and my husband, we were talking about this for years about doing, and this year we finally did it. He has a pickup truck, and he got an off-road permit to drive onto beaches. We always said we were going to do this. We never did it. And we were like, you know what, we were trying to find things to do outside. So we did it a couple of weeks ago, right? And by Gilgo Beach area, it's Sore Thumb Beach, we went. And it was so incredibly beautiful. I felt like I was on vacation and it's so close to my house. I was like, you know, 15, 20 minutes away from going home. And it was just beautiful. And listen, the beach is so nice on any temperature, you know, really.
Yeah.
And it was just so peaceful, everyone, and it's so spaced out. So no one was even near you. So you felt like you had kind of your own little private space. So of course, now I've become so invested. So my husband's birthday is coming. So now it's like buy everything possible to, you know, have the best off-roading experience, you know, possible. But it's really, you know, it's finding little things. And a lot of my friends, I see everyone's, you know, they have children. And I just think it's beautiful that everyone as a family now is going for these walks and these hikes and, you know, really just getting out there. And, you know, it's really been beautiful weather. You know, Otto always says that every week.
You know, I'm sorry, but you said beautiful walks. And one of the things that, like when the weather gets really bad, I use a treadmill. I really dislike using a treadmill, I have to admit, all right, but I'll do it. Short, 15 minutes, whatever. But one of my son-in-laws, I think the name of the thing is on YouTube, All Trails, and you can put a video of trails when you're walking, so you can actually kind of make believe you're in
I like it. It's like a little mindfulness kind of.
Where I'm going with this is that people who maybe are isolated at home can go to, unfortunately, you probably need the technology part of it, you know, be able to go to a YouTube or whatever. And there are videos of beautiful places you can go where they literally walk you through them like you're there. And, you know, it's really great how they use it, because a lot of places too, I know, because we're in this kind of virtual, you know, society where a lot of things,
there are a lot of tours that were being done all over of different parks and, national parks, whatever it might be, that you can do virtually online. And, this goes into even Beck's talk about yoga, because apps, which my mom has, like the Calm app, and she swears by it, so it's even just listening to a certain sound that brings you some kind of comfort. She actually, I was laughing the day I went upstairs, she had like the dryer on, and she's like, ever since I was a little girl, that sound. And I said, come downstairs. I was like, this thing's always going, like the amount of turnaround that I'm doing laundry constantly. But, whether it's, beach sounds or, rain people love. And they're so, I personally, they have Matthew McConaughey or Harry Styles just talking to you with a great thing. I mean, that'll calm me any day. But it's these little things, and that can really go into a mindfulness, almost meditative kind of state. Beck, I know you were talking about the importance of breathing exercises. So if you could just give us a little thing, about how to kind of techniques for that, because that
absolutely.
I know has
and
so
the,
many well.
And I have to say, Otto, I'm just thinking, maybe North Hempstead Television's fitness program, since I'm kind of, running it right now, maybe we can come up with some kind of virtual, trail. Like we could maybe do it. And if somebody has a treadmill, or even if you're on your chair, you can put your feet up and just watch. And maybe as we're walking through North Hempstead Beach Park, we can hold that and, just show the terrain and the scenery.
Absolutely.
And
I think that's a good idea. I really do.
that would be a great idea. That's a great, Otto, you just always have those nuggets in your
Got
pocket.
his finger on the pulse,
Oh, it always does. But to get back to, of course, just doing some breathing work, big part of yoga is connecting to your breath, going through your poses, or, even just releasing tension. So in yoga, we take a nice breath in through the nose, we bring that breath in into the lungs, down to the seat. And then on the exhale, that's the releasing breath. That's when the body softens. So you can come into a pose a little bit deeper. If we're doing a twist, you could twist. You're not going to twist as you're inhaling. You're going to twist as you exhale. If you think of a balloon and what happens when you fill up a balloon, it implodes. What happens when you let the air out of a balloon? It becomes a lot more flexible. Part of it, though, is not just the movement, but it's releasing tension. So tension isn't anyone's fault. If tension sneaks into the body. I mean, if you see someone maybe about to fall and you tighten up, that's there anyway. So it's you have to kind of really be aware of it and be mindful of it. So right now, you guys probably have some tension in your shoulders, maybe a little in the lower back. So if you get used to just taking a break every once in a while, you get a little tension, just when you take that full breath in, think of something positive too. You want to bring in positiveness. You want to bring in something or someone that no matter what, they put a smile on your face. And that's what you're bringing into your body. So you take that nice full breath in. And on the exhale, we release and let go, let the body soften, and kind of imagine the tension that's in the lower back or the shoulders floating out on that breath.
I'm sorry. Is it a mindfulness sort of in that category? Mm-hmm. Or is that different? You're kind of like, it's good for taking a nap too, I can tell you that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's not just tension in the body. It's also tension up here. If you're thinking about everything that you have to do, I got to get this, I got to get home. As soon as I get home, I have to do that. You know what? Take a break. You can't control it. Take a breath in and allow those thoughts to go out. Just allow yourself to recognize, be mindful. So mindfulness is a big term. It could be anything, being mindful of yourself, mindful of, we were talking a little bit about limits. If you're in a yoga class and everyone's doing this, complicated pose and reaching. And every time you reach to get a little bit further, your left hip hurts. But you want it. You know, just be mindful and come back. Know your limits and just listen to your body, because you don't want to injure yourself in yoga. I mean, you got to tell your friend, guess what? I got hurt today at yoga class. You know, no. You want to listen. You want to connect to your body. You know, like what do they say? No, in sports, it's no gain, no pain.
No pain, no gain.
So in yoga, no gain from pain.
Yeah.
You want to listen to your body, and it takes you, you know, like yoga is the practice. You're going to get further and further and further every time you practice. You're going to notice little things that you're getting, that sink in, that you're more aware of. Once you connect to breath when you're doing yoga, you immediately, you know, find your poses a little bit deeper. You take your breath in, you know, it's like you power up with energy, and then you exhale to fold, to you know, allow yourself to come deeper into your forward fold, or whatever pose you're doing.
No, but I think, you know, people a lot of times, you know, take for granted the concept of breathing, right? Because everyone's just walking around, you know, breathing.
Like everyone's just walking around breathing.
It's really, you know, especially recently, all these different podcasts and radio shows that I listen to, clearly, I mean, not as wonderful as ours, but the other ones I listen to, you know, a lot of people were talking about just how deep breathing exercises have really transformed their day-to-day things. You know, I even know some of my friends who have suffered severely with anxiety issues. I mean, just the fact that just a simple deep breathing exercise and really working on that and becoming connected to that can work them out of a panic attack.
Yeah, taking that time for yourself.
Right.
When you feel that coming on, you say, I got to take care of myself now. So, all right, let me just get down, you know, ground yourself, take that breath in, take that long exhale, and just kind of let it go. You know, it's so important, you know, to do that. And, you know, it's very connected to anxiety, releasing the breath. I can't believe we're at the end of the show. Thanks to Dan Cox, director of WCWP.org. Project Independence in You every Friday. You can also access us on the app that you can listen to us live. I mean, Christina, there's so many ways to
I know, and you can watch us on TV. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff now.
Even the radio.
That's right, you can do everything.
You could do anything, radio, television. But have a very safe week.
Thank you, Rebecca, as always, for filling in and doing such an awesome job.
It's a pleasure, and loves to John Ryan. Project Independence in You will be back next week. Have a wonderful weekend, and be well all.